Let them lose control.
I I don't know why that song just made me think of that. Maybe you're dancing, you did actually. But I started this. I'm reading a book called Transforming Trauma at the minute, which is a really good
Bit of
guy.
light reading at night time.
This is light reading for me. But this guy, he's been in that field, researching and practicing and working with people with trauma for 50 years, and runs a place called the Center for Mind Body Medicine. And
Right.
yeah, he's just been going through different ways of regulating the nervous system and bringing that down. And one of them was with these active meditations, and one of them's shaking and dancing. So it's like I created my own little playlist because what you do, so it's like you're standing up, preferably alone because you don't want anyone watching you because it looks weird. And so it's 2 minutes of just really relaxing music and just belly breathing, just bringing things down. And then after that, it's 6 minutes of shaking or like convulsing pretty much. So it's like so the music I'm using is like Kundalini awakening, like electronic, like, heavy, or you could use like shamanic drumming and that kind of thing. But it's like pretty intense. And so you're literally standing shoulder width apart, like shaking, like starting at your bottom and moving up to the top. And 6 minutes is a long time to shake.
Ah,
And like I'm pretty sweaty by the end of it, and it's really cool. Just you feel all the energy moving in your body, and after 6 minutes of that, the music comes back to 2 minutes of that just soft breathing music again, and you can feel your body. Your body's like just tingling. There's sometimes emotions will come up, like you've just sort of shaken things up a bit. It's really cool. That's what happens when you move your body in different ways. I think it's really important, because we get stuck in the same patterns. We've started recording and started the show, by the way, so we're starting off with this. And then after this,
hi everyone. Hi everyone.
hello everyone, welcome back to the Woke Blokes podcast. And then after the second breathing bit, then you just put on some music that's inspiring to you for 6 to 7 minutes. So I've just got Numa by Tool, like the last 7 minutes of it at the minute. So because the first part, the shaking, you don't want any vocals or anything, just the music. But the second one, just something inspiring, and then you just let your body move to the music, just whatever, however it wants to take you. Because now you've kind of moved, shaking things up, and you can just move in patterns that you wouldn't normally move in, and it's awesome. And then sometimes emotions that have been brought up will come up more in that. Anyway, you do that for another 7 minutes. So it's all, my playlist is like 17 minutes long, and then you just sit down for a couple of minutes afterwards and just take in what's happened. But I've been really enjoying it. And
I do lots of active meditation in my meditation classes, so I always changing it. Sometimes we'll do sitting in stillness. Sometimes you're not allowed to move. Sometimes it'll be sitting with eyes open. I love the slow walk race, so it's walking from one side of the room to the other, and the last person over there wins. And that it's 25 meters. That can take 45 minutes to do. But juggling is a great one because people come in and their egos pop up to the surface, so it's really good to work in situation with the people where their unhelpful thinking styles are just so on display, and so they'll start beating themselves up because they've never tried juggling, but they'll have an expectation that they should be a good juggler. So right away we can work with, all right, let's just get rid of that expectation there. Let's just remove that. Let's just go back to being lighthearted and fun and realize how mediocre we all are. And but it's also good because I play the role of the universe, and they're all on an individual mats, and they're not allowed off their mats. So I'm walking around and I'll start pushing them. I'll start knocking balls out of their hand. I'll just create a lot of stimulus for them, and it's really interesting because they get to see in the moment how reactive they are, and so they'll be like, "Oh, why'd you do that?" Because life happens.
Yeah.
What
I'm God, motherfucker. This is what I do.
The universe. You do not question me. I do not revolve around you and your wants and your needs. So it's really good to do that in person, in situation. It's like when I used to take clients out on a golf course, you'd see them get so agitated, so wound up, and because you can't wear a mask out there, so it's all revealed, and so instantly I could pull them to the side and say, right, what are you feeling? Where's that coming from? What's the unrealistic expectation that you have? What is your attachment? And they're like, oh, fuck, this is so hard.
That's what they say. That's why so many business deals are done on golf courses. They say if you want to get to know someone, play golf with them or get them drunk. And then all of these, like someone could hold it together pretty well, but when they're playing golf or drunk, they tend to not be able to hold those demons at bay.
It's because you learn so much about them, mate. You can, because I said there's no mask. All is revealed. Their true nature, their true character is revealed.
It's true. It's true.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is. The walking meditation. I remember doing that when you were doing the class for Daz in South Melbourne.
Oh, yep.
And that walking one is so interesting because there's like two parts of you that are interacting with each other and arguing because you can see the other side of the room. You see your cushion where you're going, and it's not very far away, but you know you're going to end up there. So it's like that's your goal. So normally in life, like we have this goal or whatever it is, even if it's just like brushing our teeth in the morning or big goals, but it's like, what's my straight line, the fastest way there? So part of you just wants to get to that cushion because that's where you're going anyway. But then the other part is, hang on, but if I go, the person who gets there last is the person that wins. So one part wants me to get there, the other part wants me to just go as slow as possible to get there, and they seem to be fighting with each other. Which I suppose is the purpose of it.
It creates a beautiful internal conflict, and so we get to sit back and observe that conflict instead of being in it, instead of being involved in it. We can sit back as the viewer and just watch those parts of us in play, and we can go, oh wow, how irrational are they being? Like you can hear the attachment, you can hear the expectation, you can hear the demand or the rigidity of their thinking. And with that awareness, you can then do something with it. But you can't do anything unless you're aware of it.
No, and I think once you become aware of that with a meditation like that, you start to become aware of it in all areas of your life. There's always like this compulsion to get to the next thing. And whether it's you're thinking it or it's just a feeling, it's like, I need to get there because once I'm there, then I'll go to the next thing. And you're being constantly pulled.
Well, Michael Singer talks about that in The Untethered Soul. He's like, and so we're hungry, so we go and get some food, but then we're thirsty, so then we go and drink, and then we have to have a phone call, and then we need to go to bed. So we're always needy. We're need, and we're always chasing a way to satisfy our needs.
Yep.
So the active meditations, and obviously my business is called MindFit, so the whole aim behind is to try and get people mentally fitter, so when they come to what they think is a meditation class and they walk in for the first time, there's juggling balls, or I'm saying, right, walk from that side to that side, they're like, this isn't meditation. They're like, well, it is.
It is.
Simply observing. But you can hear the expectation that they're walking in with. I have an idea of what meditation is. This isn't my idea of what meditation is, so instantly there's conflict.
Yeah.
Instead of just walking in very open and clean into a situation, going, I wonder what's going to happen today, with no expectations.
That's right. Yeah, and that compulsion to get to the next thing, it's like chasing a rainbow. Like, we never get there. So it's even like, and I did this the majority of my bloody life, and I still do it from time to time. It's like, it's always the next thing, and then there'll be maybe something on the horizon that you're like, oh, I really can't wait to do that, whatever, it's something exciting that you're looking forward to. But then even with those things, you get there, and then even after a few minutes, a few seconds, there's that compulsion to, oh, what am I doing after this? And so you're never there, and then you can look back at all these things that you've done in your life, and you're like, I wasn't even really there, because I was always just still thinking about that next thing.
But if you go to the other end of the spectrum, and you do nothing, that's equally as unhealthy. So it's all about finding that balance between trying to manifest and create, because you don't just want to bob along and do nothing. So it's a bit
maybe
of a
what if you
act.
do though?
What if you do what?
What if you are happy doing nothing?
Well, you can, but it's an interesting one, and that's what probably Buddhist monks are doing, is they're just going along, just observing. They're just in the moment. They're just observing. I guess I'm talking about for the majority of the population in the
Yep.
Western world, where we are interacting in, you know,
Yep.
this kind of society.
Yep.
Yeah, ideally in utopia, we would all just sit there and just observe each other, observing each other, observing each other, observing. But that's not where society
No.
is. It leads us into a quote of mine that I'd like
Yes.
to share with you, which is today's topic, listeners. Dun dun dun. So it's a great one from Seneca.
But hang on,
If a man-
what's the topic? We're gonna go through. We've just got a bit of a list of our favourite quotes. I don't know what Nick's got. Nick doesn't know what I've got, and we're just gonna go back and forward one at a time with our quotes and maybe have a bit of a chat about them and how what they mean to us and
Yeah.
how we maybe try and apply them in our life.
Yeah, exactly. So it's for the listeners to try and see any that resonate, and then go
Yep.
write that down. Okay, this is something I can meditate on. This is something I can keep looking back to.
Because
and-
people are into
and-
quotes a lot now, aren't they? Like he's all over Instagram and everything. Like you're seeing
Ah.
quotes and that, and then they make people. You'll read someone who'll resonate, and you'll be like, "Oh yeah, that sounds good. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I like that." But no, I think it's important to talk about. You know, if one does resonate, how do we apply that? Because it's if
Well,
you don't
that's,
start
that's another
applying
quote
it.
that I have. That's
Oh,
another quote that I
oh,
have.
oh! Is it a Ryan Hassan one?
No, it's Bruce
That's
Lee.
why I haven't got attributations to all of my quotes. I do for some
Me neither.
because some of them, when I like have researched some of this stuff, and you go, oh, it's a quote that it's attributed to this person, and it might be fake or not. But if it's not, then I'll find out that someone 50 years earlier had said it. Someone 50 years
Yeah.
earlier had said it. I'm like, what's the actual source of this shit?
There's a good website called Fake Quotes or something, and this dude researches where they all come from. So
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah. So my first quote was going back to just sitting and observing or being too needy. If a man knows not which port he sails, no wind is favourable.
Right.
So that's by Seneca. If a
Seneca.
man knows not which port he sails, no wind is favourable. So if we just go sailing along and we don't have a direction, don't have anywhere to focus on, we don't have a map going, you are here, you are going to there, then it's going to be really challenging to reach that destination.
Yeah. This makes me think of, maybe clients that have come in and that they can kind of understand where they are. They don't know why they're in the situation they're in, but they understand where they are. Whether it's like, I'm a drug addict, I have depression, split up with my wife, and my kids were taken away. Whatever it is, they understand that. But yeah, it's like, so where do you want to be? Like, what's ideal? Where do you want to go? Like, I don't know. It's like exactly like a new age version would be. I would say like, well, it's like you're getting your Google Maps out and you just don't have a destination, and you're just walking. And so you're not going to get where you need to go if you have no idea where that is or what it looks like.
It's like I want to live in a house. Great. Okay, I want to build a house. Great. And then having no idea what the house looks like.
Yeah,
No plans, no design or anything. It's going to be a pretty shabby looking shack.
It's like that one on The Simpsons. They built Ned Flanders. It's like some of the rooms are big, some are small. They're like, this is the only room that has electricity, but it has too much electricity, and everything goes static in the room. Yeah. No. It's I like that quote. It's a good one because the worst one is when people just go, I just want to be happy.
Yeah,
That's
what's happiness?
that's so vague.
That's
Yeah.
beige. It's so beige.
What's happiness for you? And then if you delve deep, you'll find out they start describing happiness, but what maybe society or what their family or what other people think is happiness that isn't necessarily their own.
So that led into my second one. I know we're going one for one, but this sort of links into the other one.
Are you hogging
Because
the
you
quotes, Nick?
You said
Give me a
quotes
go.
are very popular, and yeah, they're all over Instagram and everything, and they are. But as Bruce Lee said, knowing is not enough. We must apply.
Mhm.
And that's very stoic as well. And a lot of my quotes are obviously Buddhism and Stoicism, so that's sort of where mine mainly come from. But it is that my version of that is we need to turn knowledge into wisdom through application.
Mhm.
So reading all these quotes, just scrolling, flick, flick, flick. Oh yeah, they're great, they're wonderful, blah blah blah. But then if they resonate at the time, but then you just don't put them into practice, then they're pretty much useless.
Yeah, the word I love is embodiment. It's like, if we've found this knowledge, so, and this happens with books, we read a book and we like love the ideas in the book and then finish it and go to the next book. And then we finish that and we go, look, I read 50 books this year. I read one a week. It's congratulations. How many of those ideas did you embody into your life? And oftentimes
Yeah.
it's not, because we're just jumping to the next chunk of knowledge that's going to make us feel a little better. So embodiment is real knowledge at the end of the day, or wisdom,
Yeah.
as you call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the shaking and dancing meditation I'm doing. It's like, you read about it, you read about the theory behind it, the vagal nerve, and how it's worked for these different communities. It worked in Haiti after the earthquake and all that kind of jazz. But then it's like, you don't do it and just go, okay, that's good, and go to the next thing. It's not until you do it that you go, this is what it feels like. It's like I
Yeah,
can,
'cause
go.
yeah, you need to experience it
Mm.
to fully comprehend and understand it. That's why all the studying that I do is for me personally, first and foremost. So that doing a 10-day Vipassana, going through CBT, studying Buddhist philosophy, all of this stuff is for me, so I can experience it personally. And then once I know it inside and out, I can then pass it on. Instead of typical psychology where I just know what Freud said or I know what someone else said, I'm actually embodied the work that I do, and that makes me a much more effective practitioner. And the same with you, because we're not just passing intellect on, we're actually sharing some wisdom.
Yeah, yeah, totally agreed. It's like the avocado, and it's like you can study the avocado for years and do your Cert 4 and diploma in avocados, and then you can do a advanced diploma, get your bachelor, and actually do a PhD and write a full thesis on avocados. But until you've eaten an avocado, you won't understand an avocado.
And all those PhDs are considered experts, but yet they've never tasted an avocado.
Yes, and they can make centers around the avocado and worship the avocado, but I haven't actually bitten into a fucking avocado. Because that one
Alright, so
bite will give you so much more knowledge. Yeah, okay.
I've done two. So what are yours?
I've got this long one. I'm going to save it for the end now.
Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, I jumped in, didn't I?
Mate, we're just going with the flow, mate. I'm not attached to any having it at the start or the end, whatever,
Like Bruce
mate.
Lee said, be the water.
We are water.
Be the
Speaking of water, I'll start with this one. I know this is one of your favourites as well. We've actually both brought this up on the podcast at different points in time, but I'll kick it off because it is one of my favourites. No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he is not the same man. Or woman. Yeah, so this to me is just all about change and how letting go of control. This resonated with me really early on in my recovery or getting clean and that, because I was someone who always, once I got things slightly how I wanted them in life, I wanted just to hold on and have them be that way forever, and not accepting the fact that everything is changing all the time. And every single cell in mine and yours body will be renewed in 7 years. Like we'll be a different human being. Like there's hundreds of thousands of cells dying on us right now every single day. So the world is constantly in change. So understanding that when we step into that river, might be the same point in that river, but it's different water. And then also we are a different human that's stepping into that river. So there's change not only with us, but also in the world. And it's just, which we are part of the world, but it's this constant moving on and evolution and changing, which is beautiful.
So for me, I think it resonates for people who run this limiting belief. I don't like change. That's just a belief. That's an illusion that they've created. So for people who are stuck in a pattern or a narrative of I don't like change, this is a good one to shift them out of there, because we can help them to understand how irrational that belief is. I don't like change. Well, you're experiencing change constantly.
Yeah.
And it gets them into a more rational thinking where we can then live within the law of nature. And the law of nature in Buddhism is everything is impermanent. So everything is constantly in flux, everything's constantly in change. And a really great way to start practicing this is to just love the weather however it is. If it's raining, I love the weather today. If it's sunny, I love the weather today. If it's windy and blowing shit everywhere, I love the weather today. Because it's not having an unreal expectation that the weather should be doing anything based on your own needs.
Letting go of
That makes
preference. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's like it's when we have because beliefs are subjective, so we have a subjective belief, and then there's objective reality, and it's like the subjective belief says, I don't want change, and then objective reality says everything is changing all the time, and it always has, and it always will, right? They don't quite match up together. So like whenever that subjective objective are in conflict, we will suffer because we're just bumping up against objective reality.
The suffering once again, Buddhism, the source of all pain or suffering is attachment. So we're attached to the belief that the weather should be sunny, and what we're observing is that it's raining. So we're not essentially, we've got an attachment to a desired outcome. We're not getting what we want, and so that's where we go into suffering, and it's so completely irrational.
Yeah.
Because it's like, we're the center of the universe. I want it to be sunny. Why isn't it sunny? Why isn't the universe bending and twisting and turning around to meet my needs? That's ego coming out.
It is, yeah. Very, very, very ego. All right. Should I do another one, or are you going to go?
Please, no, go.
I'm going to go back to back. Who am I to judge another when I myself walk imperfectly?
Oh, I've got a different variation on that one.
Yeah, hit me up.
Thou shalt not cast stones because thou hast fucked up too.
Is that Confucius?
That's his brother confusing.
Yeah, so this is just, once again, it's just a letting go of judgment, because we've all got our little idiosyncrasies, our flaws, and often we're happy to look at what's wrong with other people and what they're not doing, what we see as right, but not looking at ourselves in the mirror and seeing that we've all got fucked up shit going on.
That's comes back to the people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. That's just another way of saying that. But it's great in terms of what we're talking about, becoming woke, when you can understand how judgmental you are and where that judgment is coming from. And with mindfulness, we talk about the easy path and the hard path, and the easy path is mindless thinking, and it's just a usual pattern that we've got that goes into destructive thinking. And in that destructive thinking, we judge and condemn and criticize, where if we go into a hard path, it takes more effort and energy to do this. But if we can go into constructive thinking, then we can start empathizing and looking beyond what people are projecting, and just being kind and considerate. So it's, if you catch yourself being really judgmental and, oh, what a dick, it's in CBT, and unhelpful thinking or cognitive distortion is labeling. And so that's essentially judging. We label ourselves, oh, I'm such an idiot. Well, you're not. You just don't know how to do something. Or the other person, I'm just going to stand here and cast judgment at them. But as you said, we're all imperfect.
Yeah, and oftentimes we sort of teach the mirror concept, in that if we're finding ourselves judging another and saying they shouldn't be doing something, it's generally just because they've triggered something unhealed in us. So
it says more about you than it says about that other person. Your judgment.
100%.
And it always comes back to you. They're just walking along, doing their own thing, being their best self at that point in time.
Like the rain outside. It is happening. This is what's happening.
Yeah. And if you go, the weather's so fucked, is it? No, it's not. The weather's just weather. The weather's nature. It's your thing. It says more about you and how rigid or how limited or how unhealthy your mind is. That whole sentence says nothing about the weather. It's speaking wholly about you as a person.
That's right, and that's why when we see other people and judge them, it's like from the energy of they shouldn't be doing that, or they shouldn't be that way, which is the same as it shouldn't be raining. It's like, it's just not accepting reality. It's like, I think Michael Singer talks about this. It's like a rattlesnake. It's like a rattlesnake has a nature, and so if you see a rattlesnake, you'd be like, wow, that's amazing, and you kind of just walk around it. You don't just start go up and patting the rattlesnake and going, he's a good little boy, come here, because you accept the reality that a rattlesnake's a rattlesnake. You're not saying this rattlesnake should be like a puppy dog and come and lick my hand and I'll pat it. You just say, hey, this is a rattlesnake. I'm just gonna go around here. I don't judge the rattlesnake for having a nature.
but that whole thing is living within the law of nature again. It's
Yep.
living in an understanding that this rattlesnake has a nature to strike out and bite you, which will fucking hurt.
Mm.
All right, so that's on you, you to understand that nature.
So that's why when you go up to give it a cuddle and it bites you, you don't go, "That's the rattlesnake's fault." It's your fault for hugging the rattlesnake.
But most people would go, "Stupid fucking rattlesnake," and then when they go to the pub a couple of days later and show all their mates their bite wounds, everyone will go, "Oh, I can't believe that rattlesnake did that."
They're so evil.
What do you mean you can't believe it? How irrational do you have to be? I'm
Yeah.
using my high voice. I can
Yeah.
hear it. That's how excited I am. I just calm back down a bit.
So, so that's why I think it's important to then. So we teach people with this mirror concept. Okay, if this person's caused a disturbance in you, and that because of that disturbance you feel like you need to judge them, why don't we start to find out what that disturbance is? And
But
oftentimes,
that person hasn't caused a disturbance in the other person. Person B has not caused the disturbance in person A. Person B is simply person B. They're just a source
no,
of
that's
stimulus.
yes, yeah.
Person A's reaction based on their expectation or
a
irrational
wound,
belief
or a wound
Yeah,
that's
or a
been
wound.
brought up.
is to react to that because they're not getting what they want or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and so if we teach them not to react and instead get curious and go, "Oh," so if I automatically judge, I go, "Oh, what's going on there in me?" Because it's not
Yeah.
about that person. Something's happening in here. Well,
But
what?
the reaction is a symptom or effect, so you have to change the root cause of what's triggering that judgment, which is an irrational thinking style.
Exactly,
or
but
a trauma.
and that's why you can use the people that you judge as a teacher because they'll actually show you where you're stuck. And then if you actually are open to owning that and working on that, then all of a sudden you might, uncover something that you've had in your unconscious. So it's these thinking styles, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and then get past that, and then you can look at that person that you were immediately going to judge and go, "Thank you," like I'll bow to you. You showed me
This is the
something you were
beauty-
stuck.
This is the beauty of mental health because unlike physical health, you've got to put on your lycra and your armbands and drive down to the gym and strut around and have a look at the mirror for a minute and then lift some weights and jump on the treadmill. I don't know how you do it, Haas, but
That's minus the lycra. You're about right.
with mental health, there's so many opportunities each and every day to practice these mental repetitions, to pull ourselves out of destructive thinking and into constructive thinking. That is a mental rep. And so catching ourselves that we're in that, oh, I'm agitated, I'm frustrated, I'm anxious, okay, I'm disturbed. This is on me, it's not on anything out there. This is purely and wholeheartedly me. So thank you for triggering me. Thank you for setting me off. I'm aware that I'm here. Now, I've got an attachment that you should have said this based on what I think and what I need. Right, that's probably not right. I'm going to change that and keep moving forward. Otherwise, we just get stuck and go around in circles.
100%. Yeah, it's like we're cycling down or we're cycling. It's a spiral downwards or upwards. And it's like blame and ownership. Blame just means we're stuck and we're going to keep going down. Ownership means we can start to move up. And then, it's like the more times we keep owning and owning and owning, then all of a sudden our mental health gets healthier and healthier and healthier.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, next quote. You'll go.
All right. Okay. Which one? Ryan's got 6. I've got 30. So, I really like the only thing to come from arguing with a fool is to prove that there are two.
Yeah. This is my dad gave me some advice years ago. It's always stuck in my head. And he said it's similar. He goes, never get in an argument with an idiot because from a distance, people won't be able to tell the difference.
There's another one based around that. It's something around stop going to the circus and expecting there to be clowns or something like that.
Especially they're not to be clowns. Yeah. Well, this is, I think whenever engaging in a discussion with someone, which it's great to have discussion and have different points of view. And I think, we should celebrate the people who have the opposite opinion to us as much as the people that do have the same opinion. But it's like when I'm engaging in a discussion with someone, there needs to be an understanding that if someone says something to me that's contrary to my beliefs, and it's really good evidence for me, then I need to be willing to change my mind. And I need to know that the other person has that same mentality. So if I say to someone, okay, you believe very, very strongly that addiction's a disease, or whatever it is, right? This just can be any topic. Is there anything that I could say, like anything, evidence I could give you that would change your mind? And if they say no, there's no point in us even having a discussion.
I always forget that. I remember you saying that the first or second time we met, and I keep having to ask you because for some reason it doesn't stick. But yeah, it's such a valuable thing because it's knowledge. If there is no, well, it comes into another one I'm going to talk about in a minute. But it's if there's no outcome as a result of spending that time and energy, then there's no point doing it.
Two people are just talking at each other.
Yeah.
And so you got to imagine, like, it's if you can come together, two people with differing ideas and both be open and talk about that, forget about the people, but ideas can start to grow and new ideas can flourish, some can get stronger, and it's a really beautiful thing. But otherwise, if it's just two people just banging against each other, then nothing grows, there's no evolution.
Alright, so that's too good a segue for me not to go into my next
You're
one.
the segue king today with your quotes.
Oh, stop it, I am. The aim of arguments or discussion should not be victory but progress.
Yeah, exactly. That's like the perfect lead on. Yeah, we're just...
The aim of an argument or discussion should not be victory but progress.
Yep. Yep. Which is exactly the same. So it's these ideas that are coming together and maybe conflicting at some point may start to merge and take on a different form and evolve and grow. Because
well, an argument in its purest form is like a micro war. It's two people at war. An actual war is on a macro level, two countries not agreeing. So it's still conflict on. Doesn't matter what level it's on, whether it's international or whether it's interpersonal. It's still conflict, and most people go into that conflict because they want to win. They want to get what they want. I want you to hear me. I want you to change. I want you to understand. Where if both people aren't of the same mindset, then it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah, it's like I brought up this analogy on the show last week with Shane. We were talking about just beliefs around cultures, and I spoke about if I'm walking down the slums of India, I'll see them cooking and eating dog flesh, and I'll be disgusted. I'll be like, you guys should not be doing that. If they came over and saw me eating beef in Australia, they would think the exact same thing. You are disgusting, stop doing that, because one has decided that cows are sacred, one has decided that dogs are sacred. And we can sit there all day and argue that the dog should be sacred or the cow should be sacred. Right? And we're not going to fucking get anywhere, right? But if we both come with an open mind and then start to go, okay, so our cultures have brought us up that way and we have different beliefs around this stuff, what actually generates and causes cultural or group beliefs, and start to talk about that, all of a sudden the level of discussion has gone from down here to up here, right? And now we're talking about different ideas because we've met on a level where we can agree that culture's programmed us and we both believe each one is right. But now let's go a level deeper.
You've got the egos out of the way, and you're coming at it from more the heart, and you're coming at it from compassion. You're coming at it with acceptance. With, I am open instead of I am closed. I am open just to listening and learning about you. Okay, I genuinely want to hear. And this comes back to, communication is not taught, and it is such a root cause of why so many people are in suffering. But there's this concept of, to listen with the intent to understand rather than respond. If you're needy, if you need to be heard or listened to or understood or whatever, you're just going to keep jumping on the other person. But if you can actually sit there and go, I'm genuinely interested in learning more about you. I want to learn about your beliefs and your culture and your philosophies and your mindset. I'm opening my mind up to expose myself to and to experience what it is that you have to say, because it's not about me, it's about you. So my ego is not part of this conversation. My heart is here listening. And if two people can sit there and do that, oh Jesus!
It's
Imagine what
beautiful.
can come of that. It
Yeah,
is.
and you'll know when you're in those conversations. I know this for myself. You'll notice there's so much pausing and silence in the discussion. Like someone will talk, and instead of
Yes.
being, but no, 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 it's just someone will speak, and then you'll both be like,
Because you're pondering. You're
you're
processing it.
actually, yeah, you're actually processing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. That was a really beautiful couple of quotes and couple of points there.
Mm.
We're going back to me.
Yeah, man.
Which one? Which one do I go for here?
Dun, 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 dun,
This one, can't remember where this is from. I think it's from a book, possibly The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. Very short one. Live with an open heart, even if it hurts.
I've come across that one before, and that's sort of links into our last conversation: living with that open heart, listening with that open heart, even if it hurts, even if someone's saying, reflecting to some things that you may not be aware of. You know, if you can listen to it without taking it personally, and and just sitting there and being open to it, it comes back to a growth mindset. Um, it's okay. This could sting. This could smart. This is gonna scrape against my ego a bit. But I'm gonna listen to it with an open heart
Mm,
and see what happens.
yeah,
Or I'm going to listen to you about your suffering, and I'm going to park my stuff over there for a while and just make this all about you.
yeah, yeah. No, I love this because I think it seems to be our natural inclination as humans with this when we're stuck in survival emotions to close a lot more than we open. It's like things happen in life that open our heart and things happen that close it. And it seems that over time, watch kids, they might cry for a bit because something happened, but immediately, bang, they open it again and they're normally open. And I think that's why we love, and dogs, we were talking about dogs before, but dogs seem to just have this open heart all the time. And I think that's what kids and dogs, they resonate with us so much because they remind us what it's like to have this just completely open heart, independent of what happens to us. But then us humans, we go
Was
into
it?
this, you go,
What were we talking about? The resetting to zero? No, it was me and my friend Deb. Um, she, I told her I've been balls deep in rammed ass lately, and she,
what was her reaction to that?
she was like, "Good on you, congratulations! As long as you're being careful and using protection."
Taking proper
Um,
precautions. You got condoms
no,
over your
Deb's
head,
one.
over your headphones while you're listening to it.
Big shout out to my friend Deb from Soul Evolution. She's amazing, does Reiki and tarot and numerology.
On your Deb.
Very dear friend of mine, very wise old soul. Um, and I was just talking about Ram Dass, and she suggested I listen to, who's the dog whisperer?
Caesar Milan.
Cesar Milan, and him being interviewed by Eckhart Tolle,
Right.
and really, really interesting to listen to. But Caesar talks about how dogs reset to zero and humans don't. So what that means, an example of that is, you go away for 5 days, the dog's like, oh, where's my human, where's my human? As soon as you come home, it's like, oh, where have you been, where have you been? And they can get a bit grumpy. As soon as you pull the lead out and say, do you want to go walkies? Bang, they're back to zero. All is forgiven. They've left it behind. They've completely detached from it. It's like, in the moment, walkies, great, we're going for a walkies. So they're not carrying any baggage whatsoever. They don't have that capacity.
Yep.
But as humans, even if we say, I forgive you, yeah, it's still parked in the back of the mind
So
somewhere.
with gritted teeth, I forgive you.
Yeah, or it's still etched into your heart or your soul somewhere. So we
Yep.
can pretend that we get back to zero, but really we probably just get back to 3.
Yeah, it's this mechanism in us that, as this critical thinking, this holding on to memory, this preparing for the future, has led us to be not the most dominant, it's the most the most vast in population, I suppose, species and all this stuff. But it does cause us all these issues. Like, this reminds me of I speak a lot about the Rat Park experiment with drugs, because it's a very, very important study to show that addiction isn't just about the drugs. But then
Was that the one
even
Johan Hari spoke about? In
In
yeah,
Chasing the Scream, he's done a TED talk. So it's
yeah.
basically Bruce Alexander in the 70s saw the original studies in the 50s around rats in a cage that would either have water or drugged water, and they would choose the drugged water until they overdosed and eventually killed themselves. So based on that, drugs are bad.
Let's be druggos.
Drugs are addictive. That's why the rehab industry was created, to just take people away from the drug and put them in a cage without drugs. And anyway, Bruce Alexander saw this study and went, "This is weird. Like, these rats are literally just in a cage by themselves with a choice of water or drugs." He's like, "I would choose drugs as well. That sounds bloody horrible." So he set up Rat Park, which is a different environment for the rats, which is
It's like Disneyland for rats.
yeah, it's like other rats. There's tunnels, there's wheels, there's, they can mate, they can play. It's just all fantastic. And the water and the drugged water. And some would try the drugged water, not all. None of them would get addicted. None of them would overdose or die. So very, very important study to show that our environment plays a big role in that. Now, the next evolution of that is, as human beings, yes, changing an environment can help a little bit, but the issue is when a rat leaves a cage and goes to Rat Park, like with the dog, the rat's just like, "I'm in Rat Park. This is awesome. Hey, there's other rats." Right? Whereas humans may be physically out of the cage, but psychologically they're still back there. Yeah, they've
So
got
I
trauma.
call this matching your mindset to your environment, and because rats and dogs and animals are very present. A bird isn't flying along going, "Oh, I was this close to catching that bloody mouse in that field last Thursday at 2 p.m." It's just not doing that. So we, as humans, need to train and condition our minds through meditative practice, um, uh, to be more present by understanding that. How do I put it? Okay, so you're at work for 8 hours and you're in your um, sympathetic nervous system most of the day. You're in fight, flight. You're getting smashed with all this information. I want this report. You have to do this. Go there, do this. That didn't happen. That's broken. Fix this. And then you drive 20 minutes home. By the time you walk in the door at home to your missus and a couple of kids and the dog, you're still going to be at work.
Mm.
Your mind is not going to be walking through the door as a father, as a husband, as a self, really, because you haven't unwound, you haven't let go, you haven't come down from that heightened work state. So we really need to take more time, and this is why people working at home are in a very dangerous position because there's no separation from the two. We need to get better at wearing our whatever hat we're wearing needs to match the environment that we're in. Does that make sense?
What if you got different hats?
Well, it's about being mindful of having all those hats. But okay, I'm in my house. I've got my wife here. I've got my kids here, and I'm here. What hats do I have on? I have my husband hat on. I have my father hat on. But I've still got my work hat on. Well, I don't need this work hat on. Why is this work hat here? Because this work hat is making me check my phone. It's making me check my laptop. It's taking me away from these other hats that are needed here. So,
and also maybe the work hat, like that day I had to wear it and I had to go pretty hard in these meetings and get people fired up and tell them what to do. Then I come home and I'm like yelling at my kids, telling them what to do because I've still got because what served me at work, I'm doing at home, but is destructive at home.
exactly.
I need to be dad, but I'm still senior management at work or whatever it is.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm bringing that home with me.
So I was like, yeah, you should get different hats. Like I got my green hat on, then on the way home I changed to my red hat and used some sort of
that could be
symbology.
simple. I've said to a lot of my clients just to stop at a footy oval on the way home from work
Yep.
and just jump out and run a lap or two. Because it just get back into your body, get back into being grounded, just
It's like a circuit
do
breaker.
something physical. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, even a song. If you had some song, because I've recommended this to people, it's a certain song on the way home, and that song signifies I'm out of work. That's I'm leaving that behind, and this is what I go to. And if they find a song that works,
Yeah.
then you keep doing it because now you've got a positive association with that song, and it'll keep working.
But if you've still got your work hat on and you're at home, it'll create a narrative in your head that I have to check my phone, I have to check my laptop, I have to do this report, I have to. So you'll work under that sense of duty and obligation in completely the wrong environment. You'll be justifying why you have to spend this time and energy still doing work when in fact your obligations are to your family.
Yes, yeah. And once again, like with most of the stuff we talk about, you have to become aware of it for you to change it. And hopefully someone's listening to this that becomes aware of it, because we're very unconscious and we're just at home and we're like, I got my phone and that, and we're just doing it. And then, maybe our partner or something will say, oi, can you get off your phone? Like the kids want to play. It's like, oh, yeah, all right. And it's like this wind-up doll just on autopilot, just walking around.
But then if someone reflects it to us, we'll get angry or agitated
Yeah,
or disturbed
yeah.
at them. Oh, just I have to do this. You don't understand. I'm doing this for us. I need to finish this report for us because there's a lot of money on the line. Well, it's a wrong justification.
No, it is. It's like you got to remember why you're working so hard in the first place. I'm doing it for my family. All right, but your family don't want you to stay back for an extra 2 hours tonight. No, but I've got to. I'm doing it for my family. It's like, no, you're really off the tracks here because you've forgotten why you're working.
I see where you're coming from, but it is not quite. The math's not adding up.
Yeah.
And I had this with a client once. He was very successful in business, and he came to me for something else. He's just like, blah blah, and I got down to it. I'm like, he said, I can give my kids anything they want. And I'm like, oh. And my first question, I don't know where this came from, was, oh, can you give them a hug when you drop them off to school? And he exploded. The tears that came out of this man, it was like a javelin that pierced his heart.
Yeah, we call it a stab. That was a very stab in a good way, best way possible,
Yeah.
which means it stabbed straight into that ego that said, I can
Yeah.
give them anything they want. Right, and then just went straight through that to his soul, and then that deep truth then poured out of him.
Yeah, it just cut through all the bullshit, all his bullshit, and hit home. And from that moment, he could then start to make some changes. But when we keep talking about awareness is the first step to change, but then acceptance is the second one. So you can be aware that I'm always doing work at home, but if you can't be stabbed and get out of your bullshit and accept that it's an issue and that it has to change, then you still won't change. So awareness is great, but then you need the acceptance.
You got to keep going.
Yeah, and that's what stops people from going and getting help. Reaching out to get counselling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware that I'm moody or I'm agitated or I'm stuck or I'm depressed or I'm anxious, but I'm not accepting that I need to go and get help because it'll make me weak or something, or my mates will laugh at me.
Mm-hmm.
So, shift into that acceptance.
We won't laugh at you. We'll celebrate you.
Yay. And hug you.
All right, you want to go for one? Let's start whipping through them.
All right, cool. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves.
Right,
The great
okay.
Dr. Viktor Frankl. So basically it says control the controllables. You cannot do shit about anything that's happening out there. All you can choose is how you feel. So Viktor Frankl, for those that don't know, is a Jewish psychiatrist that was in 4 different concentration camps and comes out of Auschwitz. And have a think about the mental aptitude of this man, the emotional intelligence. He's lost his family, he's been through absolute hell on earth, and he comes out with this: everything can be taken from a man but the last of his personal rights to choose how he feels in any given situation.
Mm-hmm.
So we can always choose how we feel in any given situation. It's hard, it's difficult, it's the opposite to what most of us do, but it is possible, or more possible than we think.
Yeah.
So
And that's why
he broke it down into in between stimulus and response is a space, and in that space lies our power to choose, and in that choice lies our freedom.
Yeah, and like you said, that can't be taken away. And for him, he found meaning in one of the worst situations you could be as a human, in those concentration camps, and he found meaning that he was going to get through it and be able to help the people in the camp and then help people after if he got out. And because of that meaning, he saw the people without meaning falling away, dying, withering away very, very fast. But the ones that had that meaning seem to have that inner strength to keep going. And you see that
Those
with
first,
cancer patients and that kind of thing. And that's that mindset is just such a massive role, because the people who give up and just say, "Oh, I got cancer, I'm going to die," their 12 month to live diagnosis
yeah,
might last for 3 months, whereas some people who are given 12 months to live, 25 years later, they're still going.
yeah. It's incredible. But I always tell clients, like, if you've been fired, or you have to take your car in for a service and it's going to cost a lot of money, if you're reacting to that, hold that experience up to Viktor Frankl going through Auschwitz, and if he can come out with this, we get to choose how we feel in any given situation, it sort of puts all of our shit back
Yeah.
into perspective a bit.
Yeah.
And we can start laughing at ourselves a bit more and going, oh yeah, I might have had a little bit of a pity party with that one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's similar to another quote I've heard, which is, when we change the way we look at a situation, the situation changes. So it's not
Yeah.
like the
Well,
situation isn't the problem.
I think we spoke of it with Shane last week, where the metanoia process, when you break down and rebuild, nothing out there changes. The army experience still happens, and I'm still living in the same house with the same letterbox. I'm still in the same DVA system. None of that changed, but I changed,
Yes.
and then everything changed.
Everything changed.
We
100%.
are the ultimate creators.
We
So,
are.
so for those listening at home, if you get fired, or if someone breaks up with you, or if you lose something, or if someone crashes into your car, or something happens, if life happens, it's not positive or negative until you decide it's so. So in those moments, just remember, you get to choose how you feel. So if you're fired, you don't have to take it personally. It doesn't have to be the worst. It can actually be an opportunity. It's the universe saying to you, you don't belong here anymore. You've spent enough time here. Now we've got to shift you into the next chapter. So
Yeah.
that's all it needs to be. You don't need to over dramatise it. Oh God, how am I going to pay my mortgage? And go deep into that fear and that anxiety and that stress. You can just acknowledge it. Right, all right, this is the end of a chapter. Keep moving.
100%. Yeah, it's how we perceive in our relationship to that
But
situation.
that takes the ability and the capacity to do that takes a lot of training, and it takes a conscious, concerted effort to condition your mind to operate in that way, because it's not human nature. It's not normal to do that. So it really,
No, it's not.
yeah,
But what you said's perfect. It's every event is neutral. It's like if we have that basic understanding that everything's neutral, then we know when we go into, I got fired from work, this is bad, 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 and start going down there. It's like this is neutral. So there's positive and negative to an equal degree. That's what neutral is. And so if I'm looking at all these negatives, there must be positives on the other side. And we'll know, like, we look back on stuff in our life and we're like, thank fuck I got fired from that job, because that was just around the corner. I got this opportunity and I would never have got if I didn't get fired. But at the time, getting fired was the worst thing in the world, because I just didn't see any of the positives that were to come.
but it's only, they can't see any positives because they can't see straight or think clearly, because their mind becomes so distorted, and you can hear the moment they tighten up, you're fired.
Mm.
And,
It's
and
it's it's
there's
it's
this,
instead of beer goggles, it's the fear goggles. They wear the fear goggles, so everything is bad and fearful.
it is, but you can hear and see the moment someone will tighten up, because all of a sudden they're living in deep fear that
Mm.
their sense of survival has been compromised. So how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to get my kids to school? Blah blah blah. So it's all understandable. We're not saying be a robot, but we can contain it and look at it differently, and lean more into trust instead of fear. Go into that constructive thinking instead of that destructive thinking.
Yeah, which, like you said, it's not like we'll just stop the destructive thinking forever. It's just gently notice when you're going down that rabbit hole. Like, oh, I'm doing it again.
Yep.
Here I
So
go.
gotta
I'm
do a
off.
mental
I'm,
rep.
I'm off to the races.
Yeah, got to do a bicep curl for the brain and pull myself out of that destructive thinking and shift myself into that constructive thinking, which does take a lot of effort and awareness and being present and observing. But different sources of stimulus are different kilograms.
Yeah.
So you're thinking a birthday letter with $50 is going to turn up today, and it doesn't turn up today. You think, it's not ideal, but it is what it is, no problems. And then if you go to work and get fired, that's got a different weight to it. So in those times, we have to dig a lot deeper, and it's going to take a lot more energy and strength and resilience than going to the letterbox in the morning.
Yeah, and sometimes early on in that process, when people are changing their thinking styles, that rep's too much. It's like that fired from the boss was a 250 kilo deadlift, and they couldn't lift it, and they went down that rabbit hole. And it's like, that's okay. It's just we just need to have done enough reps for enough amount of time that next time something comes, we can handle, we can lift it.
Yeah, your mind wasn't strong enough at that point in time.
Wasn't fit enough.
That's okay. Yeah.
Mind fit.
That's a good name for a business. Good name for a business.
I'm going to spell it with a Y though, because I'm edgy and cool.
No, because it's my mind.
I know.
And we need to take responsibility.
I knew that'd get you.
No, it didn't get me. I just saw it as an opportunity to educate. Listeners.
I feel educated.
No, not you, the listeners.
The listeners. All right. I got another one.
You, Ryan.
I'm gonna reel off my last two because we're running out of time. This is from one of my heroes of all time, especially when I was younger, Muhammad Ali. The man who has no imagination has no wings.
Or Red Bull.
Or the man with no Red Bull has no wings. I loved Muhammad Ali. I was starting to get into boxing a little bit when I was a teenager, and then my dad mentioned Muhammad Ali, and so I went and got this six video. I don't think they were DVDs yet. I think they were still videos. So there was 6 video set of his whole life documentary, and then I just got obsessed with him. And so a couple of the things that stood out for me was just the way he lived his life. He was always having fun. He always had a smile on his face.
But why that quote? He's got lots of quotes. Why that one?
Yeah, he's got lots.
How can the listeners apply that?
In my mind, his imagination meant that he was willing to do things differently, very, very differently. And
so
he was
thinking outside the square?
Thinking just massively outside the square and just being completely himself in whatever form that took. And so to me, it seems people who conform to doing everything the right way or the way they're told, they don't have wings. They're stuck on the ground. But the ones who are willing to do things differently and listen to their heart, those are the ones who get to soar very, very high, and he certainly did that with his life.
I sort of call that turning left instead of right. The crowd, the norm is to go right, and I stick to my path, which is to go left.
Go left.
Yeah. Go
Beautiful.
Left.
I was about to start singing that. I got my last one. Yes, this was Desmond Tutu, and this is a beautiful one. We need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in.
Hail.
Oh.
I'm conflicted with this one as well, because I think we spoke about it. I spoke about it on the podcast interview the other day with Tom Ahern. He interviewed me on his podcast, and he was talking about where do you let people fall into the river, because that's where we learn to swim, and preventing people from falling in. So with mental health, where do we? If I didn't have my breakdown and rebuild, I wouldn't be sitting here doing what I'm doing. So it's a really interesting one. And I said to him, all I'm basically trying to do is to reduce unnecessary suffering. Mm-hmm. We're still going to experience suffering. We're still going to hit rock bottoms and everything. People are still going to fall into the river, Desmond. If we prevent them, then we're going to stop a lot of people from realising they can swim.
But that's fair enough. So you're talking about some resilience, I suppose. But I know that both you and I have spoken before, we're very into a lot more emotional intelligence, mental health, vulnerability, being taught to young kids. So I don't know, with that analogy you're putting, it's saying to me, we just don't start to teach these kids emotional resilience because let them fall in the river.
I'm just mindful of creating too much of a utopian belief, and I think that's what a quote like that could potentially do, is create this utopian idea that none of us are ever going to fall in the river.
That's true. But he's not saying to stop them falling in the river. He just says we need to find out why they're falling in.
Which would then prevent them from falling in.
Maybe.
They're falling in because there's no fence. Let's build a fence and protect them.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But I think. Hang on. That's an important point that you just brought up. That's making me think. Because like if we erect the fence, that takes it out of their hands. It's just saying this fence is up, so you're not going to fall in.
We're interfering with their life path.
Mm.
Maybe they were meant to fall in. Maybe it's karmic. Maybe this incarnation is meant to fall and experience what it's like to drown.
But if we start on a macro scale teaching these, tools and techniques and everything for kids and how to be with themselves emotionally, maybe it improves their ability to swim out of the river when they fall in.
Exactly. So they don't have to be in the river for as long or
Yes.
to the depth that they go to.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I like that better. Let's do our own version of that quote.
Sorry, Desmond, you're wrong.
We'll just add to it.
Myth busted.
We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. But then instead of building a fence, we need to teach them how to swim to an extent so when they do fall in and if it's their karma and dharma for this lifetime, they can swim out as soon as possible. There we go.
Doesn't quite have the same ring to it, but we can work.
We'll tweak it. We'll tweak it.
We'll workshop it.
All right, hit me with some more of yours.
You're a ghost driving a meat-coated skeleton made from stardust, riding a rock hurtling through space.
You posted that this morning.
Nothing.
Fear nothing. Fear is an illusion. Yeah, you posted that this morning, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, I liked it.
Well, I love it because, once again, I love anything that puts things into perspective. And our minds are so good at blowing things out of proportion, worst case scenario, doom, gloom, blah, blah, blah. And the reality is that you are a ghost driving a meat-coated skeleton made from stardust, riding this rock hurtling through space.
Yeah.
Like, if you're afraid of a spider, it doesn't
make
sense.
Hey, we're not going to go there. I've actually been very good, Nick. Like, I don't know what's happened with me, but things seem to be very much improved on that front.
Okay. I love this one. If I'm wrong, educate me, don't belittle me.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that just speaks for itself. It's perfect. If I'm wrong, instead of judging and condemning, saying, geez, you're an idiot, going into destructive thinking, go into constructive thinking and see it as an opportunity to share some of your wisdom with someone. Compassion begins where understanding ends.
Explain that one to me. Compassion begins where
understanding ends.
So once you've fully understood, you can then go into compassion.
Once you stop understanding, that's where you can just be compassionate, where it doesn't make it about you and what you think, because that's what a lot of understanding is. I think this. I can interpret that, where we don't need to step into what we think or into our knowledge database. It's not about us. It's about you. So I'm just going to be compassionate.
Yeah,
I don't need to understand what you're going through. I can just be there for you.
Right. Okay. I see that a little bit different. That one. I think we need to understand to be compassionate.
Well, I see it that way too. So that's why it's a good one to discuss. So we'll get back to that one. Quickly? Everything you want is on the other side of fear. So that basically means discomfort precedes success, and that links back to a ship is safe in harbour, but that's not what ships are built for. So it's basically we all have a comfort zone, and when we meet the edge of our comfort zone, that's where the opportunity for growth lies outside of that. So
it's like we bump up against that boundary, and a lot of us run back.
Yeah.
But we've got to really lean into that.
Yeah, because we're afraid of the waves that are outside of the harbour. But that's where life happens. That's where we're experiencing. That's where we're challenged and we're forced to figure things out, to dig deep within ourselves. So,
Love it.
And that's what got me into my shitty headspace. Was I was a comfort slob. I was just so content in my comfort zone, and it was the worst thing possible for my mental health. I talk to clients about this one a lot. It takes more strength to let go than it takes to hold on.
Yep.
So that means it's fear makes us grip things. It takes a lot of strength to release that grip and overcome that fear, as you've done with spiders. So well done.
I love them now.
I think
I don't love them yet, but I accept them.
Okay, I've got two more. We have two lives. The second one begins when we realise we only have one.
Ooh.
Let that one sit with you for a bit.
I'm sitting with it. It's marinating. It's marinating
We
in my
have
being.
two lives. The second one begins when we realise we only have one.
When do we realise that?
When we become woke.
What if I believe in reincarnation?
It doesn't matter, because reincarnation's all about our soul or spirit becoming enlightened.
There's only one of this bloke.
It's not this incarnation of me. My purpose is not to become enlightened. It's I'm just a meat-covered skeleton. It's my soul that is in each incarnation looking for enlightenment, looking for ways to grow and develop. So,
evolution. Yeah. Love it.
The second one, I think it's important in the work that we do. We need to teach in a way that people learn, not in a way that not in a way that we teach.
Yeah.
So we need to teach in a way that people learn, not in a way that we teach.
Yeah. I had this. I got into tennis as a teenager. Like I might have been like 14 or 15 or something. And where my mum worked, they had a tennis coach there, and he was fantastic coach. He had his flaws in his personal life that I found out, but he was a brilliant coach. You know, he was coaching at the VIS at the time and all that. Anyway, got a few lessons from him, and I had been right into golf before that, so I was sort of brilliant into golf, and now getting into tennis as well. And once he realised that I was into golf, everything that he was trying to teach me, he relayed it back to a golf analogy, and I got it straight away. Like he'd explain anything, and I'd have a look and hear it. Well, in golf, and I'm like, and straight away get it. So that's probably what makes a great coach, great teacher, great therapist, whatever it is.
Exactly.
It's like that bamboo. It's like, hey, this is where the person is at. I'm going to be flexible enough to get my message across in the way that they're going to hear.
Well, there's the one that follows up from that by Socrates. It says, I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. So I can't teach my clients how to not be so reactive to when they get fired. I can only make them think about what their choices are, and then they have to come into that decision, because we all have free will, essentially.
And like we'll only we'll only listen to something if we think we've made the decision as well. So it's like, you can hear something from someone, but it's only that moment that you go, I'm going to do this, that you'll start to actually do it. We're funny that way. That's why I think it's so important to get clients to just come to these realizations where they're giving themselves their own advice, so to speak.
Yeah.
Which is sort of, I had this quote that has just come to me now. I wrote it down ages ago because it happened before it's only not long after I became a drug addict. And I did a session with Mel. And because a lot of the work we do is pulling back these layers, so you're kind of communicating with a very higher part of you, a part of you that actually has all the answers at the end of the day. And I remember I'm like, your job as a therapist isn't really to tell me what to do. It's to be the bridge between me and that higher part of me, and then I give myself my own advice, which is the best advice.
Do you know what I'm always looking for? Is these aha moments. These when the penny drops in a client's head. That's when I know we're making progress.
An epiphany.
Yeah, it's like, that's possible. I can do that. There's that option.
You can almost see the neurological pathways go ping, 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 ping.
You can, but then they need to reinforce them.
Of course.
The last one for people who are, especially in COVID, that are feeling everything's changing, they may be a bit anxious or low self-esteem or whatever. He who is properly grounded within himself does not need to look outside for approval. So he who is properly grounded within himself does not need to look outside for approval. That one I think needs to be tempered. That was from Epictetus, but I think that one needs to be tempered, because you can if you get too locked into it, you go into arrogance and ego. So once again, it needs to be tempered.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
still need to have an open mind. We still need to be open to reflections, but we don't. It's a fine line between questioning yourself constantly and being too deep in self-analysis, and then being completely ignorant of what you're doing as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think that probably the key indicator would be just being grounded, but also grounded in humility. I think having that humility would really prevent you from going too far that way and getting stuck in ego and arrogance.
True that.
Love it.
True that,
I'm
sister.
gonna read my long one to finish.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
not that. Speaking about ego, my long one. It's not. First of all, it's not my quote, and someone sent it to me yesterday, so it has nothing to fucking do with me. All right, it's just a quote. All right, it's a long one.
I'm gonna mindfully choose to listen to this with the intent to understand it. Okay, my mind is open.
One of the strongest addictions is wanting the moment to be other than what it is. Since this is impossible, it tends to create a lot of stress and anxiety in life. The reason we do this is simple. We want to be happy, and it appears to be missing. We have come to believe by getting some person, place, or thing that we desire, that happiness will ensue. It is easy to see why we think that way. Let's say we want a new home. When we get it, there is the feeling of immense happiness, so we associate the home with making us happy. What really happened is that our desire ended, and desirelessness let our true self and our inherent happiness shine forth. It is in the total acceptance of the moment that true happiness arises. Longchenpa states in Natural Perfection, we cannot escape the natural perfection of the moment. There is nothing we can do to make it better. In the openness, guiding, changing, cultivating, or rejecting has no goal. It is the expression of the totality. This is the meaning of non-action. I am this open awareness. I am not an observer, but the activity of the moment. It is what we are. This takes a degree of fearlessness to let go of all the clinging to outcome. We start to release our words like we do our thoughts with non-attachment to how they are perceived. It is here we notice the gentle happiness that is always there.
Oh, that sounds nice. Gentle happiness.
Just gentle happiness that's always there.
Can we discuss that in next episode? Can we use that as a segue, because it's all about segues today?
You're all about segues today. Nick Segway Sutherland. You're just,
that says more about you than it does about me, because you're judging me on that. You're the one that seems to have an issue with it.
I'm impressed. I'm like celebrating you. I'm in awe of you.
I don't hear the celebration. I'm not hearing that.
I've got an erection. You just can't see it.
On that note, listeners.
On that note, we'll wrap up. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We hope you got some of those quotes resonated.
Send us yours. Send us your favourites.
Yeah. Send us some quotes. We'd love to hear them and talk about them on the next episode.
And how you apply them, how you use them in your life. Because I think the big thing for me with my metanoia was to get away from that rigid thinking and belief system and into a more philosophical belief system. So it was just more, I created the bamboo instead of the oak tree. So yeah, I guess I love philosophy because it creates that capacity for us to keep growing and evolve. It creates that growth mindset.
100%. So if there's like a real applicable thing, it's like pick 2 quotes out of the ones that we've said today. Pick 2 that resonate the most. Write them down on a bit of paper, and then just put what action am I going to take to embody these quotes. 2 things.
But then check back in with it 3 times a day.
3 times a day. All right, done.
Yep.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you all next week.
Peace.
Peace.